Hello and welcome to At Home Among Strangers with Brenneman. I am from New Zealand but live here in the Kyrgyz Republic, and today in the studio with me is Koustubh Sharma. He is part of the Snow Leopard Trust, in fact the international coordinator of the Snow Leopard Trust, and has lived here in Bishkek for some years. So I want to welcome Koustubh Sharma, Doctor.
Fair enough.
Dr. Koustubh Sharma into our studio today. Welcome.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you for having me here.
First of all, I would say that we've actually been acquaintances or friends for a few years here in Bishkek. Started going to all these different events and just connecting, and became friends. And so I'm really happy to have you here as a friend today in the studio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Tell us just a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Start with the easiest one.
Okay. So I'm from India. I grew up in the city of Bhopal, the city which is infamous for the Union Carbide gas tragedy, which killed a lot of people, unfortunately. But anyway, that's where I grew up. And then I did my master's in physics. I did my PhD in wildlife zoology. I lived for 5 years in a tiger reserve in central India.
5 years in a tiger reserve?
I did, yes.
So where did you do your education?
In Bhopal.
Bhopal, okay.
Yeah. But my PhD I did from the Mumbai University.
Mumbai?
Yeah.
Okay. 5 years in a tiger reserve?
Absolutely. It was fun.
Tell us about what it's like to live in a tiger reserve for 5 years.
So on any given day, I can call those 5 years as the most amazing 5 years of my life for various reasons. A, I got to learn about wildlife, ecology, right at the doorstep, right? I was living there. I was living the whole experience myself.
There's nothing like that crazy American series, The Tiger King.
No. Not at all.
No. Okay.
Absolutely not at all. These are
just checking.
these are wild.
Because that's what will come to people's minds.
Of course. No. So tiger reserves are technically forests which are protected as part of the Project Tiger in India, which was designed to conserve certain areas for tigers. But when you're protecting tiger, you're not just saving tiger, you're saving the entire prey and biodiversity. So these are proper forests. No animal is fed by hand. Animals are on their own. They're wild animals. You have to be careful about your own life.
Careful, yeah.
Absolutely. But yes, it's one of the, I think if I can call it, living in the forest for 5 years was the best education I've ever had. Best education about what people need, best education about what wildlife needs, best education about survival, and best education about maturing as an individual, because I was on my own in the forest and experiencing it all.
So we'll get to the Kyrgyz Republic in a few minutes, but more just about yourself personally. You're married, children?
Yeah, so I'm married. I have a wonderful wife and a delightful daughter who's 6 years now. She, by the way, she believes she is Kyrgyz. Although she was born in Delhi, she is fully Kyrgyz. She refuses to call herself anything else but a Kyrgyz.
That's interesting. Does she speak Kyrgyz?
Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of opportunity to communicate with people who speak in Kyrgyz, especially in Bishkek. But she speaks a little bit of Russian, and she's learning a little bit, teaching me a little bit as well. But yes.
Well, going from your education,
yeah.
And then at what point did you get involved with going, from tigers to snow leopards?
Yeah. So by the time I finished my PhD, I was assisting a study on tigers apart from doing my own PhD work. And my PhD was also on a species which is very difficult to see. And snow leopards are also a species which is extremely difficult to see. There are a handful of people in the world who have probably seen it in the wild. And that challenge of working on a species which you can't see very easily, so you have to use other means. You have to use technology, you have to use a little bit of scientific development or statistics to understand species better. That really got me interested in some of these elusive species. And around the same time, the Snow Leopard Trust was looking for someone who basically was ready to live for extended periods in remote areas in the world. And I said, yes, of course, I'd love to do that. And that's how I joined them in 2008.
And then, after joining the Snow Leopard Trust, at what point did you move to Kyrgyzstan? Yeah.
So, for almost the first 5-6 years, I was based in Delhi. And in 2013 and 14, the Kyrgyz Republic hosted the first International Snow Leopard Conservation Forum. What that forum did, it brought 12 countries where snow leopards are found together, and these countries endorsed what we call as the Bishkek Declaration for Snow Leopard Conservation. Now, the Bishkek Declaration for Snow Leopard Conservation is a blueprint of what we need to do jointly to conserve snow leopards. And it has countries on board, it has multilateral agencies on board, it has NGOs and universities and individuals on board. So to translate that declaration into action, there needed to be a setup, and which is why a secretariat was set up. And the Snow Leopard Trust is a technical partner right from the beginning to this larger program, and that's what got me to Bishkek. It was learned that it will be best in the service of snow leopards that I move here so that I can work closely with the larger goal of implementing the Bishkek Declaration for Snow Leopard Conservation.
And then from 2013-14, now it's 2021.
Yeah.
What kind of success have you seen?
I think the biggest success, one may say, is that never before have everybody working on snow leopard conservation aligned their forces and their goals towards one direction. Put it like this, you have 10 people working in 10 different directions. You might not move any way. But if all these 10 people start moving in one direction, you may have traction. And that, in very simple words, is one of the biggest achievements, that we have an alignment in goals, we have an alignment in what we want towards conserving snow leopards, we have an alignment in policy and action, whether it's research or conservation. So globally, across these 12 countries, they're all looking at similar direction, and that hasn't happened before, and that's a big thing. Having said that, I wouldn't say that we have succeeded in conserving snow leopards. It's a species which does come in conflict with humans and livestock. It's a species which is a big predator, so obviously it will kill livestock once in a while. And then, of course, snow leopards are also illegally traded for their body parts and skin. So the challenges remain, but it's much better in terms of what it will take to conserve them. So we are probably moving slowly towards that direction. I wouldn't say we've done the job, but
there's progress.
There's progress.
And what in the Kyrgyz Republic, I know that you're often gone into the mountains, and we have the different camera traps and things. Can you share with us what is actually happening in this country to conserve or monitor, raise awareness?
Yeah, right. So broadly speaking, Brad, there are 4 elements that we need to conserve species such as the snow leopard. We need research, so that we know what the snow leopards need or what the biodiversity need. We need community-based conservation, so that we are able to work closely with the local communities which share their space with wildlife. We need education, because not just children, but even the grown-ups, we need to constantly engage with them so that they're aware of what needs to be done, why it needs to be done to conserve the species. And lastly, we need policy, because whatever you do, there'll always be a situation where an organization however big an organization is, they all have a range, right? Ultimately, it's the governments who can take charge and make things move at the scale which will be beneficial to the whole species. So we need policy as well. In Kyrgyzstan, what's amazing is that there's a little bit of all of this happening. There's a lot of policy level decision making which is driven by science. There is science where our teams are out in the mountains setting up camera traps. Now, camera traps are these these incredible tools which are like someone sitting out in the mountains for 6 months without complaining, but constantly recording and taking pictures of any animals or wildlife that moves in front of them. Now, the good thing with snow leopards is you can recognize them based on their spots. And once camera traps have taken pictures, you can collect those pictures and start comparing them. Okay, this snow leopard, let me call it Brad. Here's another snow leopard, let's call him Koustubh, and they have different patterns. And that's how we basically take this data and use it to understand where snow leopards are, how many there are, and over the years, if you monitor it, you can estimate whether the populations are doing better or worse, whether the survival's getting better or not, whether they're dispersing into newer areas or they are getting locally extinct in different areas.
So based on what you have done here, or the team has done here, what is I don't know. I hear all the time about the snow leopards, the Snow Leopard Trust, and in Kyrgyz and Russian and in English we hear about these things. Yes. How many are there?
I wish I knew, honestly. The problem with snow leopards is that they're not an easy species to spot, as we started with the discussion with. It's only now that from parts of the Kyrgyz Republic we have some data, and we can say that yes, in an area around Sarichat, and I can say that with fair bit of confidence that we probably are looking at some of the best densities of snow leopards in the world. So that's one part of Kyrgyz Republic. The Alatu mountain range that you see from Bishkek, we know for sure that there are at least 15 or more snow leopards living in these mountain ranges. What we are doing is, Brad, for the question that how many snow leopards there are, there's a very ambitious program which is being jointly coordinated across 12 countries. We call it PAWS. It's Population Assessment of the World's Snow Leopards. Now, it's the first time ever that...
Let me just correct, because we'll translate into Russian.
Yes,
pause
please.
As in pause,
yes.
Not as in pausa. Pause.
Pause.
Like a break, okay.
Yes, pause, right?
PAWS.
PAWS, yes, pause, which stands for Population Assessment of the World's Snow Leopards. The goal of this initiative is to coordinate effort with statistically robust and scientifically valid methods across the 12 snow leopard range countries to come up with a reliable estimate of how many snow leopards are there in each country, in certain protected areas, across mountain ranges, and ultimately the whole snow leopard range, which is nearly 1 to 2 million square kilometers. So that initiative is currently going on. We already have data coming in from 4 or 5 sites within Kyrgyzstan. There are 3-4 sites more that need to be surveyed in 21 and 22. And then, hopefully by the end of 2022, if we meet again, I'll be able to give you an answer how many snow leopards are there in Kyrgyz Republic.
Very good. How is the international awareness? I mean, when you're living here, we hear about it, we see things. There was the snow leopard a year or so ago that was shot and blinded. I went to the sanctuary, I guess, and saw that. What is the international? So we hear about it here, but what's the international awareness of the plight of the snow leopard?
Yeah, so let me put it this way. Even in countries where snow leopards are found, a large population does not even know that snow leopard exists in their own backyard, metaphorically speaking. Kyrgyzstan, on the other hand, is doing fairly well because over here, for various reasons, because of the government's involvement, because of the mythological or historical relevance of snow leopards, petroglyphs, and various other reasons. And in Kyrgyzstan, there is a lot more awareness about the snow leopards. People know that the species, Ilbers or Snezhny bars, it exists. But as you go to bigger countries, or even those countries where awareness isn't that much, you start losing the visibility of the species. And in many countries, they don't even know that a species like a snow leopard exists. Which is where, there have been campaigns like last year, Microsoft did an incredible campaign using AI to help snow leopard research and conservation. And I'm not exaggerating, it's several hundred millions of people who got to see that advertisement. What it did was it allowed people to appreciate that there does exist a species named the snow leopard, and it is under threat, and the species needs efforts to be made for its conservation. So I think the awareness level really is very diverse. In some places you have very high awareness. Many places it's because of the zoos that have snow leopards, and they build a lot of awareness. In many places you have organizations who are constantly working with children, adults, and otherwise. And of course, then there are places where out of sight, out of mind. People don't even know that a snow leopard exists.
Let me add, just for the viewers, if you Google Microsoft snow leopard, you'll be able to see this. It's about a 30-second clip. Advertisement from Microsoft, from American Microsoft, which features you and the camera traps and then different things. The
Kyrgyz Republic.
It's featuring the Kyrgyz Republic and an official Microsoft advertisement. So I would encourage everybody, please open up your computers or your phones and look at it. It's really interesting to see our country and you in Microsoft. I didn't know it until you showed me. I didn't realize it was there. But moving on from that, I know that soon, in February of 2021, there'll be released a series of short films filmed by the BBC, featuring...
For the BBC.
Or filmed for the BBC.
Yeah.
Sorry. Filmed for the BBC. Why don't you explain, not me, because you know what it is.
Yeah. Now, I think, as you will appreciate, snow leopard is a very charismatic species. You don't see it very often, but you know it's one of those big cats with a big tail and lives in extremely difficult terrain. So it has been constantly on the radar for a lot of filmmakers. Most filming on snow leopards has happened in India, parts of Pakistan, China, and Mongolia. Very little snow leopard-based films have been made in the Kyrgyz Republic and other Central Asian countries. So there's a film which is currently under production. The film crew was here for almost 5-6 weeks. They met with several people from the government, NGOs, university, and others who are working at different levels, at different representations of snow leopard conservation. And we hope the film will be released sometime later this year on BBC Web. So it's going to be a series of 5 or 6 episodes, short episodes, but they will not only showcase the snow leopard and its and what it takes to conserve snow leopards, but they will also showcase this beautiful country.
I think that's important to showcase both. The country, the wildlife, and just educating people here and overseas about the snow leopards. Yeah. So, as we come to a close, but how long do you think that you'll be living here? I've never heard you say you're planning on leaving, but what is your family's plans, or is this home now?
As I said, my daughter calls this home. And if any time in the near future there'll be a need for me to move out, it's going to be extremely difficult. I'd consider Bishkek as home. My daughter considers it a home. My wife treats it as home. And for now, I think we're here. I mean, just a beautiful country to live in, right?
It is.
Wonderful people, wonderful landscapes, and great food.
I think that for many people here, it's hard to sometimes understand that people like myself or you, our families, that we actually there's difficult days, but for the most part, we enjoy living here. I like getting in my car and the mountains are close.
Yes.
Camping is so cool. There's so many things.
Yeah.
And the freedom to just travel and see things is incredible.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. Nowhere else in the world you may have another capital which is in the shadow of the mountains that have snow leopards in them. And that's what makes Bishkek very special.
Very good. Thank you so much for stopping by the studio.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we can show your shirt.
There. That's a little snow leopard.
And also we'll have, I think, the links up
Yes.
again. Microsoft snow leopards, so that we can look for the link.
Certainly.
And then when the BBC, made for BBC films come out, we'll encourage everybody to be able to watch them and to be proud of snow leopards and the Kyrgyz Republic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
You've been watching At Home Among Strangers with Brad Brenneman. Today in the studio with me is Dr. Koustubh Sharma, from India originally, but Bishkek is now his home, international coordinator of the Snow Leopard Trust. Thank you so much for being with us. See you soon.